Yo, how's it going? Doing back in the video, and today I'm going to be talking about how Paul George coming back to the Los Angeles Clippers recently could change a lot of things going forward in the NBA. Now, what I mean is how I think it's going to cause a big changes going into the play-in game and even into the playoffs coming up very soon. And I'm be saying how the Clippers could really benefit from him and how some other teams could be in big trouble because of his return. So I'm going to get into all that in this video. So if that does sound interesting to you, hit the like button and subscribe button. I mean the absolute word to me. And without further ado, without running on too much, let's get right into this video. Alright, so the first thing I want to get into for this video is going to be that they're already a very solid team even without Paul George. As I mean, they've been missing both of their superstars, obviously being PG and then Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard hasn't played all year and Paul George has been out for the vast majority of this season. But even despite them losing two superstars and probably two top 15 players in the NBA, they still have a record of 36-39, which is good enough to have them in the 8th seed in the Western Conference. And that is huge because since PG-13 has went down, they were still able to have a record of 19-24, showing that this team is very well built and that they're just all around solid. Really, the only thing this team was missing was a star level player, and that is obviously something Paul George is going to be able to help with due to how good he is. Something else that is so impressive that this Clippers team has been able to maintain is their elite defense, as they are currently ranked the 8th best defensive team in the entire NBA when it comes to defensive efficiency, and that is with both Paul George and Kawhi being out, two great perimeter defenders and probably two of the better two-way players in the entire NBA. So with Paul George coming back, he is only going to make that defense, which is their huge strength and better than most people already, he is going to make that strength even stronger. But something else that is extremely important, he is going to be able to help them with their currently biggest weakness, which is their offense. As right now, their offense just is not anywhere near you would want it to be. They are currently ranked the 22nd best offensive team, which is just not good enough, and that's just not anywhere near good enough to be a good playoff level team. But they now will be getting a lot of firepower and a lot of star power that is going to help them on that offensive end. Now, although I don't think Paul George is going to turn them into an elite offensive team, I think he is going to help them a ton, as anytime you can add 24 points per game and 5 assists per game to your starting lineup, that is going to help your offense every time. And we've already seen him do that, as in his first game, he pretty much carried the Clippers to a comeback win. And then last game, he's been playing so good and he is such a good player, he was able to let people like Robert Covington cook for him, because now their people are so focused on Paul George, they can no longer focus on players like Robert Covington nearly as much, which could be huge for them. And we've already seen it pay dividends, as Robert Covington just dropped 41 points. Now, obviously, Covington isn't going to drop 41 points tonight now that Paul George is back, obviously, but he is now going to be able to open up opportunities and make it much easier on all those other very good role players that they do have on this team. So I think for sure with Paul George coming back, he is going to be able to make that defense, which is already elite, even better, and that weakness, which is their offense, which is mainly due to the lack of firepower and lack of star power on the offensive end. I think for sure that offense is going to start going up, and we could see it get into the top 15 and maybe even the top 12 or 10 if Paul George can play at an elite level like we know he can. So I think for sure him coming back could really make this Clippers team extremely scary on both ends of the court, and that's not something you can say for a lot of teams, because outside of really the top 4 teams in the NBA, not really any team is elite at both sides of the basketball. So if Paul George can make this team a average offensive team and an even better top 4 maybe defensive team, the Clippers are going to get very scary very quickly, and no one's going to want to see them in the first round. I don't care what seed you are. If Paul George is healthy for the Clippers, the Suns don't want to see them, the Warriors don't want to see them, and no one in the Western Conference as a top seed wants to see the Clippers in the first round, especially if Paul George is playing like the Paul George that we all know he can be, due to how versatile and how much he's going to improve this Clippers roster as a whole. But now another reason why I think that him coming back could be such a big deal is because he could give the Clippers time to legitimately get healthy at a very nice rate, because now they don't have to worry about rushing back someone like Norman Powell, who has been reported to be able to come back around the play-in tournament, and I think he is one of the more guaranteed players to come back out of the two that are very important, obviously being him and Kawhi. Norman Powell has been reported that he should be coming back around the play-in game, and that he might be able to even play in the play-in tournament tournament itself. But now with Paul George being back, they don't have to rush Norman Powell back, because I think Paul George, with them being the 8th seed, almost guarantees them a chance to at least make the playoffs. Like, before he got back, if he wouldn't have came back for the play-in game, I'm not sure the Clippers get out of the play-in tournament. But now that he is back, I don't see a superstar level player like him not being able to win at least one game in the play-in tournament to make the playoffs. So I think for sure they will at least make the playoffs, and that might give the Clippers enough confidence to maybe hold back Norman Powell until he absolutely has to play, like maybe in the second play-in game if they lose the first one, or some type of situation like that. So I think for sure he's going to give Norman Powell time to heal, but which could even be even more game-changing and could be like completely change the entire way this NBA season, NBA playoffs are going to go, is if he is able to get them out of the play-in tournament and into the playoffs as an 8th seed, well then for sure he's going to give Kawhi Leonard a chance, as there have been multiple reports saying that Kawhi Leonard could come back for the playoffs and that he could get healthy in time to make a playoff run with the Clippers. Now, although it is very uncertain and no one really knows for sure and is far from a guarantee that Kawhi will come back, even the possibility of that happening should be very, very exciting for any NBA fan and really any Clippers fan as well, because if Kawhi does come back in the playoffs with Paul George, they are legitimately once again finals contenders. Like, any team that has as good of role players as they have, plus 2 top 15 players that are also two of the best two-way players in the entire league, that team is going to be a contender no matter what. And that would be a nightmare scenario for a team like the Warriors, a team like the Phoenix Suns, if they have to play Kawhi and Paul George fully fresh going into the first round. Like, that would be a nightmare, and I mean like worst scenario if you're a top seed in the West to have to play that team in the first round. Now, I'm not saying those teams would lose, but it would be a hell of a series due to how good the Clippers would be playing if Kawhi would come back fully healthy. Now, like I said, that is completely uncertain, and he might not come back at all, but Paul George just being on the team and giving them a real shot at making the playoffs and really a likely shot of getting out of the play-in tournament gives Kawhi a chance of coming back, and just by buying time for them, that could be very, very valuable. So Paul George could really change the NBA in many, many ways this season by just coming back, because he's going to give the Clippers a real shot and most likely will make the playoffs with the Clippers. He's going to help with their biggest weaknesses, and he's going to make the Clippers that much better of a team. But most importantly, he gives the Clippers time, and they're going to be able to get fully healthy. Norman Powell was playing very good before he got injured, so if he comes back, the Clippers are going to get even better. And then obviously if Kawhi comes back, they're once again finals contenders. So he could legitimately change how this entire season has played out just by coming back. So I think for sure this Paul George coming back thing could have huge implications on the NBA going forward for the rest of this season and postseason. But unfortunately, guys, that's my first video. So comment below. Do you agree with me? Do you think Paul George could change a lot of things? How good do you think the Clippers are with just Paul George? Do you think Kawhi is going to come back? On your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like the video, hit like button, subscribe button, and mean the absolute word to me. And I hope you have a blessed day. Have a blessed day. So you can have a blessed day. All glory to God. See you next video. Bye. Goodbye.